Welcome to this video, the third in the series, focusing on how to play the classical guitar using the FGC3 tuning. In this video we will take a general overview of chords, covering firstly the ways in which we sound a chord using the right hand, secondly the different types of chord spans that can be played across the strings, and thirdly we will discuss the three different fret postures. And fourthly, we will continue our exploration of basic harmonic types in the top four strings. In this video, we revisit the major tonic chords that we briefly looked at in the previous video, and we will continue and we will cover the first and second inversions of the major chords. Okay, so let's discuss the playing with the right hand. Okay, so in the right hand, chords can be strummed, splayed or plucked. I'll just show you what each of these mean. So first of all, let us find our tonic chord of G major in the top four strings. Okay, so the fingering for this, which is this one over here, it's H5, G2, H4, H3. Okay, so when written in full, there should be two dashes to indicate the bottom, fifth and sixth strings are not played. If the two dashes are absent, as in the case over here, then it is assumed that the fingering refers only to the top four strings. If on the other hand there are two dashes at the front, this means that the fingering refers to the bottom four strings. Strumming is where we use a finger to play all notes in the chord in an upward direction. It has a vertical curly line next to it and a single digit beneath the stave to indicate the finger required. So therefore, if it is a 1, then it needs to be strummed with the thumb. If it is a 2, then it is the index finger, and so forth. So I'll just show you what this, how this is done for each of the 5 fingers, and I'll do this. And while I do this, notice the difference in sonority between the fingers. Okay, so first of all, let us find the chord of G major, which is H5. So that's frets A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And then the fifth finger on fret H. And then next one is G2. So this index finger on the second string on the fret before H, which is G. And the third string, which is H4, which is the fourth finger on fret H, and the fourth string is H3, which is the third finger on the fret H. So it's that one there. So that's the chord of G major tonic. Okay, so if we look at the diagram here, so we have these 5 chords, which are all the same chord, the tonic chord of G major. So number 1 here indicates the thumb, number 2 index finger, number 3 the middle finger, and number 4 the ring finger, and number 5 the little finger. So I'll just show you what how each of these sounds. So the first one, so that's the thumb. Number 2, that's the index finger, and the third one, the middle finger, the fourth one, the ring finger, and the fifth one, the little finger. So I'll just repeat that. Okay, so that was strumming just now, where we had the one finger playing all the notes of the chord. So splaying is the same as strumming, except that the different fingers are used to pluck the different strings in order to achieve a rapid upward arpeggiated effect similar to that of strumming. As a general rule, the first finger, thumb, should be used to play the bottom note of the chord. The second index finger will be used to play the next note from the bottom, and so forth. So I'll just show you how this is done. Okay, so for example, so here we have the same chord, the tonic chord of G major, and so that has the curly line there, and beneath that we have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, which means that it's to be played by the thumb, the index finger, the middle finger and the ring finger. So if we do have a chord that needs to be splayed or even plucked, then generally it's always the thumb that plays the bottom note, and then the index finger the next note up, and so forth. So I'll just play that chord there, where it says this chord here, which has the word splayed above it. So I've got the thumb on the bottom note, and then the one above that, it's the index finger, and then the middle finger, and the top note is played by the ring finger. So this is how it sounds. Okay, so I'm trying to achieve the same kind of arpeggiated effect as a strum, but in this case it's played by my 4 fingers. And plucking is where we have all the chords played at the same time without any arpeggiated effect, like this. Similarly, with plucking, as a general rule, it's the thumb that plays the bottom note and the index finger that plays the note next up from the bottom, and then the middle finger the next note up from that, and then so forth. Okay, so I'll just play that chord again, which is this chord here, under the word plucking, and so that shows it's 1, 2, 3, 4, which is to be played by the 4 fingers I mentioned just now, starting with the thumb at the bottom note. So this is how it sounds. Okay, so just as practice, I'll just play all those notes in a diagram once again. So starting from the very first chord here, I'll just play those notes again. So this is strumming with the thumb, and then the index, and then the middle finger, and then the ring finger, and then the little finger, and then the same chord to be splayed, and then plucked. Okay, so that's how we play the chords in the right hand. Okay, and next we'll discuss the different types of chord spans. The word span refers to the span of the strings that need to be held down when playing a chord. In the FGC3 tuning, there are 6 different types of chord spans, which are as follows. Okay, so firstly, the top span refers to the left hand, holding down the top 4 strings. So strings 1, 2, 3 and 4, like this. And secondly, the middle span refers to the left hand, holding down the middle 4 strings. Strings 2, 3, 4 and 5, like this. So those are the middle 4 strings there. And thirdly, the bottom span refers to the left hand, holding down the bottom 4 strings, strings 3, 4, 5 and 6, like this. And if we hold down 3 or less adjacent strings, then we still categorize them as either a top, middle or bottom span, depending on which of the 4 strings they fall into. The reason for this is that when playing with only 3 or less strings, we don't need to change the position of the so-called span. So for example, if I hold down the tonic chord of G major in the high span here, with the top G, 1 octave above the tonic, there are 4 notes played altogether. So if I just play 3 of those 4 notes, or just 2, I don't need to change my position of the fingers. So I'll just show what I mean by that. So that's the 4 notes there. So that's a chord consisting of just 3 notes there. And this is a chord consisting of just 2 notes. So I haven't changed the actual hand position for those chords with 3 or 2 notes. So that's why those notes are still counted as being a top span chord. Okay, so those are our first three types of spans. So moving on to the next span, fourthly, we do have the upper span, which consists of strings 1 to 5, so strings 1 at the top and 5 at the bottom, and the chords and the notes in between, so like this. So if you notice here, this is I'm playing just the top 3 strings, and then the 5th string is held down as well. Okay, that's called an upper span because it involves holding the top note being the top string and the bottom note being the 5th string. That's the 5th string there, and that's the top note, the top string there. Fifthly, we have the lower span, which consists of strings 2 and 6 as the top and the bottom strings of the chord. Okay, such as this. So I'll just play a lower span chord. So the top note is in the 2nd string, and the bottom note is on the 6th string, the bottom string. So that's a lower span chord. And sixthly and lastly, we have the breadth span, which consists of strings 1 and 6, and as the bottom and as the top and bottom strings of the chord. Okay, so I'll just show what we mean by a breadth span. So the top string there is being played, and the bottom string there is being played as well. So that's the breadth of the actual the 6 strings. That's why it's called a breadth span. So these are the 6 span types with which we use to play the basic chords in FGC3 tuning. The beauty about the FGC3 tuning is that because the bottom strings are one whole tone apart and the top 4 strings are a major third apart, this means it's really easy to play virtually any consonant and dissonant chords in the tenor, alto and soprano octave ranges without the need for any difficult hand stretches. The fret distance of a whole tone dissonance in the top 4 strings is just 3 frets apart, and the fret distance of a semitone dissonance in the top 4 strings is just 4 frets apart. So I'll just show that. So in the top 4 strings, to play a the dissonance of a whole tone, so it's just 3 frets apart like that. So that's a whole tone, and a semitone is just 4 frets apart, which is like that. So that's a semitone. In the bottom 2 strings, they are even closer, being one whole note apart, like that. So therefore, with regards to chords, regardless of whether they are consonant or dissonant, they are easy to play. Once we have mastered the basic chords across the 6 different span types, this will give us the basic grounding to explore the more unusual and dissonant chords. So what do we mean by a basic chord? In traditional Western music, the basic harmonic chords, which have been the major and minor chords, the dominant 7th and diminished 3rds, with their tonic 1st and 2nd inversions. In this series, we will explore how these chords are played across the 6 different string spans for the FGC3 tuning, which are namely, as we discussed just now, the top, the middle, the bottom, the upper, the lower, and the breadth spans. So we start off with the underneck fret posture. How many different possibilities of basic chords are there? If we calculated that there are 6 different string spans, so for example, the 6 being the top span, the middle span, and the bottom span, and then the upper span, and then the lower span, and then the breadth span. So those are the different 6 string spans, and on each of those 6 spans there are three different chord inversions, which are the tonic, first and second, and four different harmonies, which are the major, minor, dominant, seventh, and diminished thirds, and 12 different keys from A flat to G natural. Then 6 times 3 times 4 times 12 gives a total of 864 basic chords, which we will need to master. With the dominant 7 chords, there can be actually up to 5 different playable variations for the chord inversions, which are for the tonic, first, second, and third inversions for the dominant 7th chord. So in fact, the total number of basic chords would probably be around the number 1008. My calculations are as follows. So we do have the 6 string spans times 3 harmonic types, the major, minor, and the diminished thirds, and the 3 inversions, tonic, first and second, and the 12 keys for the underneck chords, and 6, so plus the 6 strings spans plus the dominant 7th, and then times the 5 inversion variations for the tonic, first, second, and third inversions, and then times 12 again for the 12 different keys. That gives us a total of 1008 basic chords for the underneck chords. As for the open string basic chords, this number's around 84. As for the overneck chords, which start from around fret O upwards, with fret O being the 14th fret, then we need to add on an additional 504 chords. So with the 1008 underneck basic chord possibilities, 84 open string basic chord possibilities, and 506 overneck basic chord possibilities, this gives us a grand total of 1596 basic chord possibilities altogether. As we will discover in later videos, there are actually less than 1596 because in the lower and broader spans, such as the bottom, lower, and the breadth spans, the possibilities of inversions are not as numerous, so we will be trimming down the number as we go along. So for now, 1596 will serve as our initial starting point. If 1596 chords sounds like a daunting number, I will show you that it is actually easier than it sounds. We will cover 36 of those chords in this video, leaving just 1560 to be covered later in later videos. These 36 chords are the major, tonic, and first and second inversion chords in the high span. The high span being the first of the top 4 strings only. Okay, so we have already mentioned the fingering for the major tonic chord in the last video. I will just recap it to show you how to hold the major tonic chord in the high span. If you remember, we have the 5th finger holding down the 4th fret on the top string, and the 2nd finger holding down the backward fret on the 2nd string, and the 4th finger holding down the 4th fret on the 3rd string, and the 3rd finger holding down the 4th fret on the 4th string. Supposing we play the major tonic chord in the first 2 frets on the top 4 strings, we have this chord. So that's the 5th, the 2nd finger, and the 4th and the 3rd on the top 4 strings there. So this is the major tonic chord of D major. The fingering notation for this, it's C5, B2, C4, C3, because the top string is held down on the fret C, which is this one, by the 5th finger, and the 2nd string is held down on the fret B by the 2nd finger, and the 3rd string is held down on the fret C by the 4th finger, and the 4th string is held down on the fret C by the 3rd finger. So if we shift the hand up 1 fret but keep the same relative finger formation, then we will have the major tonic chord of E flat major like this. In this case, the fingering notation, it's D5, C2, D4, D3, because the 1st string is held down on the fret D by the 5th finger, and the 2nd string is held down on the fret C by the 2nd finger, the third string is held down on the fret D by the fourth finger, and the fourth string is held down on the fret D by the third finger. So the next fret up is the major tonic chord of E, natural, using the fingering E5, D2, E4, E3 like this. The next one after that is the major tonic chord of F, natural, using the fingering F5, E2, F4, F3 like this. The next one after that is the F sharp major tonic chord like this. And the next one after that is the G major tonic chord like this. And then the A flat major tonic like this. And then the A major tonic like this. And then the B flat major tonic like this. And then the B major tonic like this. And then the C major tonic like this. And then finally on the frets N and M we have the C sharp major tonic using the fingering, which is N5, M2, N4, N3. So that's N5, and that's M2, and that's N4, and that's N3. Like that. So for all 12 keys, you will have noticed that we keep the exact same finger formation, which is this. Okay, so if we hold the palm of the left hand facing us, and we push the fifth finger forward, and the second finger touching the fifth finger, but recedes away from it, like that, and the fourth finger touching the second finger, and bottom front of it, and the third finger touching the fourth finger at the same level. So we like this. This is what we call the high span major tonic underneck fingering formation. For each of the spans and each of the harmonic types and inversions, there is a different fingering formation that remains the same for all the keys in that string span and that harmonic type and that fret posture. Next, we'll move on to the high span first inversion chords. The first inversion is where we have the major third of the scale forming the bass note of the chord instead of the key note forming the bass notes as in the tonic chord. So if we play the first inversion chord on the fret B and the fret C, we get the major first inversion chord of B flat major. This is because the bottom note is D, followed by F, and then B flat, and then D again at the top. So the fingering for this, it's C5, C4, B2, C3. So that is the C fret there with the first finger. And then after that, we have C4 again, which is the fourth finger on the fret C, and then B2, which is the second finger on the third string on the fret B. And then after that, we have the C3, which is the third finger on the fourth string. So that's like that. So if we analyze the fingering formation for the high span major first inversion, it's the fourth and the fifth finger level, and then the second finger tucked in behind the fourth finger, and the third finger level again with the fourth finger. So it's like that. So if we shift this fingering formation up one fret, we get the major first inversion chord of B major. And then up one fret after that, it's C major first inversion. And then after that, it's C sharp major first inversion. And then D major first inversion. And then E flat major first inversion. And then E natural major first inversion. And then F natural major first inversion. And then F sharp major first inversion. and then G major, first inversion, and then A flat major, first inversion, and then finally we have A major, first inversion, using the fingering, which is N5, N4, M2, and N3 like this. Next, we'll move on to the high span second inversion chords. The second inversion is where we have the perfect fifth of the scale forming the bass note of the chord instead of the key note forming the bass note as in the tonic chord. So if we play the second inversion on fret B and fret C, we get the major second inversion chord of F sharp major. This is because the bottom note is C sharp followed by the F sharp and then the A sharp and then C sharp again at the top. So the fingering for this, it's B3, C5, C4, B2. So the top string, it's B3. And the second string, it's C5. And the third string, it's C4. And the fourth string, it's B2. So it sounds like this. Okay, so if we analyze the fingering formation of the high span major second inversion, it's the third finger tucked in behind the fifth and the fourth fingers, which are outstretched, and then with the second finger receded at the same level as the third finger. So if we shift this fingering formation up one fret, then we get the major second inversion chord of G major. And then after that we have the A flat major second inversion, and then after that the A natural major second inversion, and then the B flat major second inversion, and then the B natural major second inversion, and then the C natural major second inversion, and then the C sharp major second inversion, and then the D natural major second inversion, and then the E flat major second inversion, and then the E natural major second inversion, and then finally we have the F natural major second inversion using the fingering. So that's M3, N5, N2, and M2 like that. This diagram shows the musical and fingering notation of the 36 chords that we have discussed so far. These are what we call the chord chromatic scales. Here we have the chord chromatic scales for the underneck, high span major, tonic, major first inversion and major second inversion chords. I would recommend practicing these chord chromatic scales regularly by reading the musical notation and also by reading the left hand fingering notation and also reading the right hand fingering notation as well. Notice that the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 at the bottom of the first chord in each scale indicates that the strings are to be plucked by the thumb, index finger, middle finger and the ring finger in the right hand, because this is because there is no curly vertical line next to each chord. So I will just demonstrate how to practice these chromatic chord scales. I would have the diagram in front of me and then play the chords one by one. So for the first one, this is the chromatic scale of the underneck, high span, major tonic chords. So here it goes. And for the second one, this is the chromatic scale of the underneck, high span, major first inversion chords. for the third one. This is the chromatic scale of the underneck, high span, major, second inversion chords. Well, that brings us to the end of this third video. In this video we've looked at how we play chords with the right hand through strumming, splaying and plucking. And we've learnt about the 6 different string spans, namely the high middle, namely the top, middle, bottom, upper, lower and breadth string spans. And we've learnt about the 3 different fret postures, namely the underneck, the open string and the overneck. We've also learnt the 3 chromatic chord scales for the high span, underneck, major tonic, first inversion and second inversion chords. In the next video we will extend the 3 chromatic chord scales we learnt so far to include open string and overneck chords. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to see you in the next video. In the meantime, take care.